Let's talk about some of the myths that you shouldn't believe if you are building your PC for the first time. And let's start with the number one, and that is a gaming CPU. Now, there is nothing inherently called a gaming CPU. Yes, manufacturers, brands use their CPU or market their CPU as best gaming CPU, but that doesn't mean that if you get a i7 and you can play Cyberpunk 2077 on max settings, a i7 on its own is as good as a i3 on its own. And a lot of people ask me that, well, I'm gonna build my first PC, I have a decent amount of budget, should I get a gaming CPU like i7 or i9 or Ryzen 9, Ryzen 7? Well, would it be good enough if I want to play high-end games? Well, yeah, it would be if you pick a good enough GPU. So if you're building your PC for the first time and you are planning to play games on it, then you first need to pick a good GPU, then pair it with a CPU which is decent enough that it won't bottleneck your GPU. And if you want to know more about how to pick the best CPU, let me know in the comment section. I'll make a video about that. Now, talking about CPU and GPU combination, a lot of people still believe that AMD GPUs can only perform at its best if you paired it with a AMD CPU, which cannot be further from the truth. Let me give you an example, which again is gonna sound similar to the first point. Let's say we pick a RX 6900 XT and pair it with a Ryzen 3. Then again, on another PC or another person picked a RX 6900 XT and paired it with a i7. Guess which combination will perform better? Well, I hate to break it to you, the Intel AMD combination will perform better because then our GPU won't be bottleneck and it can perform at its fullest. Now, number three, and that is thermal paste. I have seen it, I have heard it, some horror story, people thinking that more thermal paste, that means better cooling performance. So they put a gunk load of thermal paste on the motherboard, then it leaks out, then it shorts the motherboard, and they asked, well, what happened? Well, idiot, you put a lot of thermal paste on your CPU die. You just need to put a pea dot or a rice grain amount of thermal paste if you're using a normal sized CPU, and if you're using a Threadripper or something like that, then you can put more thermal paste. And a lot of people use X method, and there is a lot of method of applying thermal paste. Some people put the thermal paste, then they smoothen out with card, but to be honest, you don't need to do all that. Just put the right and enough amount, then tighten your CPU cooler, and trust me, most of the CPU cooler has so much pressure that they will easily press out or easily spread out the thermal paste. One thing that you need to care when you're buying a thermal paste or building your first PC, you need to pick a good quality thermal paste, not a toothpaste. That's the one thing you should be concerned. Now, on to the number fourth, and that is more RAM equals more performance. Well, in certain scenarios, it is 100% true, but in some other scenarios, it can't. Let's say you have a pretty old PC. You just play, you don't even play games. You just browse YouTube, do your office work, all that, and you have 8 gigabytes of RAM on your system. But your PC is still running slow. You're using a hard drive. So let me give you a suggestion. Don't add more RAM. Add a SSD. You will see night and day difference. Yes, you can have 16 gigabytes of RAM, but if you can't utilize that 16 gigabytes of RAM, then the extra 8 gigabytes is just a waste of money. Get a better GPU, get a better SSD. You will see a night and day difference than adding more and more RAM. Yes, more RAM solves problem, but that isn't always the case. And the last myth is surrounding PSU. And it's a two-parter. First is, if you use a way too much powerful PSU, it can damage your PC components, which isn't true. Yes, your PC might need 400 watts of power, but if you add 1000 watts power supply, that's not gonna hurt your components. It's pretty easy and simple because PSUs doesn't push power. They have the power, then your components draw that power from your PSU. They don't push power. And when your components will draw enough power, then your PSU will be idle and not wasting any more power than it should. But well, some of you may ask, well, why do you why do you need to buy 1,000 watt PSU for a 400 watt PC? Most of the PSUs are efficient to their 40 to 70% power draw range. So that means 1,000 watt power supply. If you use that with your 400 watt PC, then it will be super efficient. But at the same time, I don't suggest anybody to do that, because that will be a waste of money. 1,000 watt power supplies are way expensive. And yeah, the second part is a lot of people invest way too much in the PSU. Yes, PSU is a very important component on your PC and you should pick a good one, but that doesn't mean you should blow up your budget just by picking your PSU. You need to pick a good PSU from a reputable brand which has a good 80 plus rating, at least 80 plus gold. Aim for that. If you don't, 80 plus bronze would do it fine. So how do you pick your PSU? Well, there are a lot of PSU calculators on the internet. Cooler Master has its own. You can go there, put down your components, then they will suggest you, or they will tell you how much watt that your PSU need, or like how much power that all of your components will draw. Then pick a PSU. Now here's the thing. If that calculator is telling you that your components will draw 400 watt, well then I don't suggest you get a 450. Get at least 500. Having 50 to 100 watts of overhead is always good. And at the same time, the thing I told you, that PSUs are much more efficient at their 40 to 70% power range. So pick a PSU which is good, like from a good brand, reputable brand, has a good efficiency rating, and get 50 to 100 or 150 of power overhead, and you should be fine, my friend. So these are the 5 PC myths that if you are a first time PC builder, you really shouldn't believe. And if anybody tell you, correct them, because you watched this video. So why don't subscribe to this channel? And guys, do you guys want to see these kind of videos in a short form? I'm thinking making these kind of videos, PC tips, PC myths, then applications that programs that every PC gamer need, all that in a short form, 30-second of easily digestible videos. Let me know in the comment section what do you guys think of that idea. And if you like this video, hit the like button. If you don't, leave it a dislike. Feel free to do that. And if you want to watch more videos from us, check out this video right here. And if you want to subscribe, well, here's the subscribe button. Do it. And there's Akash. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.